everyone, and we're live. You're listening to Cosmic Children. I'm your host, Kevin, and today I have a very fascinating individual in the studio with me. I found this individual through Instagram, as we all do these days, out of random actually, because I've been feeding my Instagram algorithm with a lot of like macro photography stuff, with like insects and like fishes and all that other stuff. I think one day I might have mistyped swamp. Like I was looking for swamp inspiration photos. I might have mistyped it in like the account and the people thing, and your profile popped up, the swamp.
Yeah.
So could you please introduce yourself? What is the swamp? Who are you? What is it about?
Okay. I'm Ami. I'm a creative by day. Works in an agency, normal stuff. And then I guess by night too, a creative sometimes. So whenever I have free time, I'll just do a swamp, which is a passion project of mine.
Yep.
So I like anything nature since I was a kid. And I guess it's a combination of different hobbies.
Yep.
It's because I do macro photography, I do design. And then swamp is like a way to express those, it's like an outlet.
Yep.
Yeah. And what Swamp was in the beginning was to sell like kind of camping stuff.
Yep.
That kind of thing. But then I realized this is like, the inventory is way too big to sit at home. Because this is basically a home business.
Yep.
And I kind of went through different iterations of what Swamp is. Initially it was just like camping thing.
Yep.
And then it became like, oh, maybe I can do a smart aquarium designer.
Smart aquarium design. Okay.
Yeah, so like it's a browser, right?
Yep.
Then you can have different scape stuff. Scape is basically the way you like have what's this called? Scaping materials like wood, stones and everything, and just have them lay out nicely because there's no such thing now. Well, now it exists, but back then it didn't. Yeah, like which is 2 years ago when I had this idea. And so the latest iteration is mosses and terrariums.
Yep.
Yeah. And I guess this would be the way it's going to be.
Okay.
For a long time. Yeah.
Okay. So it has gone through a couple of iterations to get to this point. So what would make you say that now it's going to be, this is like more or less like the final iteration that I'm comfortable with. I want to see this through for a couple of years. Why are you so confident in saying that?
I think because this is very comfortable for me. Like I know like what people want. I know what I want now.
Yep.
I'm not just like experimenting for fun. Like see what works. So I've tried these things and I feel like this works the best. So I like aquascaping. And this kind of merges well together with like photography. And I don't need to deal with water because aquascaping is like basically an aquarium.
Contrary to probably if you don't have to deal with water.
Yeah, so and if I do aquascaping, let's say aquariums, I have to like do water changes. I have to manage this schedule, which is very annoying to do on a daily basis. So I guess terrariums are very like a middle ground. Yeah, so I don't have to do all this work while still having the aesthetics of like a green, like a green glass tank.
So is there a difference between an aquarium, terrarium, and a vivarium? Yeah,
there's so basically what you said was vivarium, right? It's an umbrella term, I think. I'm not an expert in this.
Sure.
I'm just an enthusiast.
Yeah.
So vivarium is what most people would call like a terrarium with living things inside.
Okay. Okay.
But a terrarium can also fall under a vivarium.
Yep.
Yeah. So a terrarium to me is something that has no living things inside. It's just plants. Yeah, and it's a terra, like so it's earth. Or like ground. So
that makes sense.
So it's just an earth in a box, I guess.
Yep.
And aquarium is what you know, it's just water.
Yep.
Yeah, water and plants, water plants, all this.
And what I find most interesting is that on the bio page of your Instagram profile, you say that it's a moss design studio. Could you please elaborate on these 3 words together? Because I know design and I'm sure you will educate me about moss, but I think these 3 words together, I think it symbolizes something different. Yeah. So could you please explain that?
I like the aesthetic of like a more minimalist kind of visual. So I feel moss design studio can mean that we have this, like it, to me it brings this visual of like a white, like clean kind of layout with green and whatever branding colors I have.
Yep.
Yeah, so this design studio is more of like bringing this aesthetic to people. And I feel like maybe what I have in my head is this, like one day I'll open this actual studio
Oh, tight.
where
Yeah.
I can have this like displayed in a gallery fashion. Yeah, so that's what I have in my head.
Yep.
But currently it's just like a home thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it kind of doesn't make sense right now. Moss design studio, but
But that's the goal.
yeah, that's the goal.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm sure most of the listeners can empathize, but and me as well. And I speak from a point of ignorance. What is a moss?
Okay. Moss. What it is in essence is it's a bryophyte.
What is that?
Which is they are like, because so bryophytes have mosses, lichens, and hornworts. Not lichens, like liverworts and hornworts.
Sure.
So these are just the simplest way to explain it is it's just like green, like a plant without roots.
A plant without roots.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you see mosses, right, they don't actually have roots.
How do they get?
So they just get their water and nutrients from the air, or like whatever trickles to it, or like by capillary action, which is
okay.
the same when you use a tissue paper to wipe like a surface.
Oh, that's interesting.
When it absorbs things instead of like actively taking in things through their roots.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is a moss.
They are not plants.
They are plants, but without roots.
So would they be classified as fungi, or are they different?
No, fungi is a totally
Fungi
different
is a
thing.
totally different thing. Okay.
Which I have no idea about.
Okay.
It's a very big like section of
Okay.
the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how, when with regards to the moss and the different types of families and species that you deal with, how specific do you get? Like, because when I think of moss, the only thing I can think of is something green.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you would have a different picture about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the reason I started this was because I was annoyed at how little information there was online, and whenever
It's a fair reason to start business.
and I was into all this aquarium stuff, right?
Yep.
It naturally evolved into like making terrariums or vivariums, but then I wanted something that's green, like which is moss, and also like I like the aesthetics of moss. But then whenever I try to find like how do you care for moss, they'll have this like very pseudoscientific kind of things which don't make sense.
Okay.
And like it always doesn't work. So it's like different sources will have different things to say about it. And they usually don't have any species specific information.
So it's very opinionated.
Yeah.
Okay.
And some would say, oh, mosses don't need light. And some would say some mosses need very high light. So
very high light.
How do I track, right? So when I started Swamp, I have this like vision of like making sure I have the species name and how to care for it. So it's easier for people to like get into it.
Yep.
So imagine if let's say food, you go to a food court and it's like chicken with rice, but you don't know what, is it chicken rice? Is it fried chicken?
Okay.
So that analogy kind of sticks to this. Yeah.
So initially when you first enter into the space, it was very vague and not ultra specific as you would like.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've been looking for mosses that work with our climate. Like in Singapore.
Singapore's climate. Okay.
Because if you see Japan has a very strong moss community.
Do they?
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
So it's a very interesting subculture there where they have these temples.
Yep.
And it's like they have moss markets outside.
Moss markets.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then they will just sell mosses for their Zen gardens, for their bonsais. So this is a very common thing in Japan. And even then they don't have the scientific names. They just have this like vague description like feather moss or like bud moss.
Yep.
But you don't know what it is because some mosses look similar but they have very different needs. Yeah, so I'm trying to fix that problem. Yeah.
Would you happen to have a theory as to why it is so ingrained or even so accepted in Japan? Do you have a theory?
That I'm not sure about, but I feel like it's the abundance of moss over there.
Abundance, okay.
Yeah, so it's already there. So someone would eventually try to make something out of it.
Sure.
Yeah, and they have a very strong culture in like bonsais, which also ties into moss.
Yep.
So I think this is why. But beyond that, I don't think it has a big following.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's still very niche, similar to that of the bonsai and its different offerings and followings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's very I would like to visit those moss markets someday.
Gotcha.
I've seen it online.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So in terms of trying to imagine mosses in the greater ecology of like maybe a jungle or maybe like a particular spot, where does it lie? Because we have trees, we have, I guess, fruit-bearing trees or fruit-bearing plants, all the way down to fungi onto the to the floor area.
Yeah, the undergrowth.
Like, is it smaller than is it in the undergrowth, and is it smaller than all these things? Is it like the base layer?
There's two kinds.
Yeah.
So there's the Acrocarpus mosses and the Pleurocarpus mosses. So
Please explain.
Acrocarpus is basically the way it grows. So
Okay.
Acrocarpus are usually the ones found on the ground with like the bun shapes, and they can be found on the side of trees. And Pleurocarpus are the ones that grow like in a mat fashion. So
Mat.
it's like a carpet fashion. So they can be on trees, they can be on the branches, they can be on the side of trees, they can be on the ground too. Yeah. So these two differences are what separates like this is the primary separator mosses. Yeah.
Yep. So I'm curious to know what sparked your interest. Have you always been interested in nature and things of the sort, or do you remember like do you used to go on treks in Singapore? Yeah.
I started this. Okay, so there's these two, like the history of like swarm, right? Or like my interest in mosses. We have to go to two parts in like my history.
Yep.
So it started when the first part with the mosses is when I'm a kid and I have all these pets. So I've been like raised up in a household where pets are a normal thing. Yeah, so I started with hamsters and rabbits, guinea pigs, all this. Briefly took a break during NS. But I think I got a gift of like a moss terrarium set.
Oh, someone gave you a moss terrarium. Okay.
Yeah, like during NS.
Yep.
But that was the first like run-in I had with mosses.
Yep.
And then after after NS. And then I started to like dive into it was frogs actually that got me into mosses. Yeah.
Cute.
So it's illegal to keep this green tree frog in Singapore.
It's illegal?
It's illegal.
Legal,
Yeah.
okay.
The only one we can keep. Like technically. So
is it the one like it's dark green or is it like lime green?
it's like bluish green.
Ooh,
and it changes to like brown.
Nice.
It's like a range of colors.
Like palm size or
Yeah,
smaller?
it can grow quite fat.
Oh, so cute.
It's quite cute, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was what got me into mosses.
Yep.
Like this whole terrarium scene.
Yep.
But it wasn't mosses specifically in the first place. It was just terrarium plants and how to care for them. And eventually, like as I said, like I was trying to find information on mosses, but it doesn't exist. Like not solid ones anyway. So I tried to like experiment. Yeah.
But what was appealing about mosses? Because let's say if someone gave you a moss terrarium and you even mentioned that you had like the pet frog. It could have gone in a lot of different ways. But what was appealing about moss in general? Because at least before I did my research for this particular episode, it feels like something that is very overlooked. I had a previous episode with like a macro photographer where he takes macro photography of like insects and caterpillars. I think the same train of thought would come by me. It's like it's often overlooked because you need specialized equipment, or you need to be very observant, or you need maybe like a macro lens, and you need to like be aware that it's even there, and you need to stoop down and you need to look, and then you can see like something something happening. So I'm just curious to know, even at that point in time, what was the appeal of them?
Okay, so I said previously there was two parts. So this ties in nicely with what I'm going to say. So I actually do macro photography on my free time also. Go on treks. So I've always noticed mosses like, oh, this is cool, but I guess this is just for me to see. I don't know what it's about. So, but over time, I keep getting more and more interested in them. I take photos of them. And even going overseas, or like, oh, look at like my album have like holiday photos and then just a wall of moss, like green moss stuff. But I never thought much about it. And I guess this like merged in a way after I kept terrariums and like vivariums, and like, I realized I can actually take photos of these mosses. And since I do macro, I can actually identify these mosses, because you need to have a very high def photo of like a macro photo of moss to identify them. Macroscopic even, but most mosses you can identify them using like just macro photos.
Do they have very identifiable traits? Like, because I've seen some photos where, let's say if one is green and even like some of them have hair growing out from them, and some of them have like a very like spherical pattern, or even like very sharp. I don't know if you call them leaves. Yeah, I
guess fronds.
Okay, this is me, the layman, talking.
Also, I'm not sure if this is even correct. So, what's the question again?
So, But even with the terrariums you had,
Yeah.
were you actively like getting your hands dirty and changing it out and trying to preserve it as long as possible? Like is that the goal of a terrarium?
Yeah, it's to like have this ecosystem that's self-sustaining, like ideally. And then but then I realized these mosses keep dying, like no matter what I try to do.
So
And
mosses can die.
yeah, they can die.
Okay.
Because they're very sensitive to like the balance of light and moisture and humidity.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think like there's something to do with like the tap water also. But I've tested like several mosses with tap water and they do fine. So I think it's just the ratio of like, oh, if it's too bright, your light's too bright and it's not humid enough, it'll go brown. It'll just die.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it kind of needs to have a specialized like, ecosystem for it.
Yep.
And not just a by the way.
Yep.
Like on the ground because there's no light.
So it's not something that you can just, I don't know, purchase or something and then leave it there. You still have to have, I guess, sort of awareness and specialized attention to even.
Yeah, I guess if you get lucky, you can. Yeah, because if you see the ones on the roadside, like oh, it's thriving very well, but no one's taking care of it. But I think it's because it got there, through like dispersion, and it found the correct spot. So I guess if you buy a moss that's kind of matches what your home climate is, or like what you're doing, like the watering schedule, then I guess you can keep it alive without any like much care.
Yep.
Yeah, but most of the time, if you buy it off a store, you gotta know like what are the specific like care you need to get for them. Yeah.
And even being told these information, I guess, is part of the responsibility of the store as well, right? To educate and not just like just sell a product and then it dies like a week or two later.
Yeah, there's also a problem now because I get a lot of people asking me on my like the DMs.
Yeah.
And, oh, like I bought this from a store. This person told me like this is the care, but a few days later it died.
Oh no.
Yeah, and then I'll try to like rectify. Like, see what's wrong. And I think the problem is when the stores keep the mosses, it's not in the condition that's realistic. So it's in an aircon room all the time. Like, and it's usually in like a dried form. Or like, so mosses can like kind of hibernate.
Oh.
So it's kind of dormant.
Yep.
So it's not doing anything. It's just alive.
Yep.
Yeah, but not thriving.
Yep.
And once someone takes it home, they unpack it, they put it in their terrarium, which is a more like closer to life, I guess. Yeah, and then it just dies.
Oh.
Yeah.
But because of the air conditioning and other different factors?
Like because if it's cooling, their rate of transpiration is lower.
What is transpiration again?
Like the rate of water loss for the mosses, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess that's the issue. Like with the shops that sell mosses nowadays. Like they don't have like aftermarket service or like even pre-market service. It's just moss. We have a moss.
So it's more like a product like, ultimately.
Yep.
Interesting.
Not much attention is paid to them. Yeah, so this is what I'm trying to fix.
Are they okay? So this might be another. This is definitely another ignorant question. But are they usually very hardy? Because you talk about the mosses you find outside when you walk and along the cement, and nobody cares for them.
Yep.
And they are just alive. They're thriving there.
Yeah.
So what about the mosses you get on these terrariums? Are they very hardy, or because we transplant them from somewhere else and we keep them in these enclosures, they are not that hardy? Yeah.
Yeah. The hardiest mosses are the ones that do the best. So if you see the ones that are common are the Holland mosses. Or like bun mosses.
Okay.
These mosses are very hardy.
Yep.
But as and you said the ones on the roadside, they do very well without human. But once you take them home, they die.
Oh,
it's because
interesting.
I think it's something to do with the pH of the substrate they're on and whatever, what's this thing called? The nutrients they get from the rocks and everything.
Yep.
Once you take that away, they start to die because they're not meant to live without it.
They seem almost very happenstance.
Yeah.
Like a series of invisible variables, and across a long period of time, they grow at a specific place. But if you transplant them, and because you transplant to perhaps even an identical different thing, they won't live.
Yeah, which is very hard to like keep track of.
Okay.
Like, I've tried to take some from the car park.
Yep.
And then put it in my tank.
Yep.
Like the tank has, so I have this 1.2 meters tank for like
1.2 meters. Yo, that's a big ass tank.
It's from this table. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have a lot of mosses there. So I use it as an observation chamber and also like a way to display the mosses before selling them.
Yep.
Like an acclimation chamber.
Yeah. A what chamber?
Acclimation chamber, like to acclimate the mosses to our weather before I sell them. Because I feel it's unethical to like just bring in mosses and then just sell them like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
without knowing if it's gonna even survive if I sell them. Yeah. So I have this tank and I have a lot of mosses there, and everyone seems to be thriving. And then randomly just a patch would die. Or like something I just put in will die.
Yeah.
Even though the rest are doing okay.
So when that happens, what do you think of?
Okay, so the reason for me doing this thing is I can keep track of the parameters.
Yeah. So
there's the light is constant. The watering schedule is on a timer. So I know everything is there. So once something is off, I know what to fix. So maybe it's something to do with the light. It's too bright. Or maybe the watering schedule didn't go as planned. So by having a consistent schedule, I think you can like pinpoint what problems that are easier.
Yep.
Instead of trying to keep everything in different tanks and in different parameters. And it's like a kind of a nightmare to pinpoint what's wrong.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was my process. And some of them just die. And I don't know why.
But I guess with all things, it's trying to figure out and know as you go along, right?
It's a challenge. Kind of like a puzzle. Like, can I keep this alive? Yeah.
Has there been mosses where no matter what you try, it just doesn't live or it just dies for inexplicable reasons?
Yeah, a lot actually.
A lot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Usually these are temperate mosses which come from colder countries. So the temperature is just something that I can't keep up with. So they have like 16 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, it's difficult to replicate. Yeah.
It's not practical. So even if I can keep it alive, I can't sell it.
Yep.
And no one will have that set up at home.
Yep.
So by bringing these mosses, I can like kind of have a checklist of what, like I know over time, like what will do well and what doesn't. So I tend to not bring in more temperate species.
Yep.
Or I'll try to find somewhere from neighboring countries. Yeah. So it's like easier.
I like that you call it observation chamber. It sounds super scientific. Like I don't know, you have like 3 iguanas and 2 frogs inside. You see what happens.
Yeah, but it's just a tank. Yeah.
Okay, so it's just a tank with mosses and no other life in there.
No other life.
Interesting.
Except hitchhikers, which are
Wait, what?
which is like things that come in with the moss accidentally. So let's say
Explain.
you might bring in the moss. Everything is like when you look through it, there's nothing, and then a month later you see like a few centipedes crawling inside.
Huh?
Because the eggs are inside, like in the soil.
But these are microscopic, right?
Yeah, so you can see them. But then over time they grow up in the tank unknowingly.
Yep.
So they'll just pop up from time to time.
Does it disrupt your observation and your
Oh, not really.
range?
Yeah.
Okay.
They just live there.
And it's kind of welcomed.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay.
they keep the ecosystem going.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I can't sterilize it fully, and then it will try to adapt to the sterile conditions, which I don't think works at all. Yeah.
I think sterilizing nature has never gone that well.
Yeah, that's true.
Nature is not very sterile.
Yeah. Even a plant, there's like thousands of like things living near roots.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because we can't see it.
Mm.
I would imagine if we are able to see all these things in some way or fashion, or even be aware of it, I think the perception of nature will be very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've been told that there are still so many species of insects that's not been found.
Yeah.
What plant life not been found, and a lot of these things are microscopic or even like in the underbelly of the forest.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we just tend to just walk through it.
It's just human nature to like not care about things that you can't see. Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned about the climate. How would you describe the climate in Singapore? And the follow-up to the question is, what type of moss or I think life do you think it's good to be able to cultivate in this particular climate?
Okay, so I think the best form of moss like anyone can have success with is the aquatic mosses, which are the ones sold in aquariums. So these are like very hardy. They grow very fast and they are acclimated to like they are found in habitats which are the same as ours. So warm, humid, variable light.
Yep.
These conditions are usually the best. And the first question is how. What is it again?
What's the climate of Singapore like compared to, let's say, regionally? Because you mentioned about Japan.
Yep.
I would imagine Japan has a different climate as well.
Yeah, the seasonal thing is a thing also which I have not got into, which is how like some mosses can live through cold and they need the dormant like period to even live. Singapore doesn't have it. It's like constantly hot and humid.
Yep.
But it's not as humid as you would think, because even if you put a moss in your hall, like in a room, like just open jar, it will kind of die because it's not humid enough. Because so they need something in the ballpark of maybe 80 degrees humidity.
That's very high,
80% humidity, yeah. It's very high. Singapore is around 60-ish to 70, depending on what level you live in.
Yeah. It to me right now, it sounds like a type of plant that is very difficult to keep alive if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. Because it has very specific needs.
Yep.
Yeah, and I guess you can, if you know plants, then the way I can kind of, it's a parallel to how begonias are.
Could you please explain
which is this begonias are quite sensitive to humidity and temperature also. So this is the way mosses are also. The way you have to keep them, you have to like pay attention to the humidity. There's constant humidity that they need, and all it takes is an hour of like something going wrong, and then the whole thing can go.
Oh man.
Yeah. They can, because let's say they are used to a specific humidity, let's say 80%.
Yep.
But then this particularly hot day, you're not at home, the draft is strong.
Yep.
It just dries out your whole house. But then your light is still on. So it's trying to like live.
It's so sensitive. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I guess it's okay. Like the way the rate that they reproduce or grow can kind of make up for that. Even if a moss is dead, if you leave it in the right conditions for a few months or weeks, it can regrow.
Wait, what does that mean? When it's even if by all accounts and measures it's dead, but if you leave it there for a few weeks or within a certain time frame, it will live?
Yeah, so if let's say a moss turns brown due to like improper care or something, and you put it in a place where it can thrive, you just leave it there for a few months, and there's some like living cells still within the moss which can like regenerate and continue living. Yeah, so it can kind of, when you see mosses that are dead, it's not fully dead, which is why some places that sell sphagnum mosses for like potting, like potted plants, if they put it in a terrarium, you can see that the sphagnum mosses come back to life. Yeah, because of this like stasis
That is interesting.
Yeah.
And it sounds as though it is not a very known fact. Because I certainly didn't know that.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, when I think something's dead, they usually stay dead.
And I think it's how we all are very impatient. Like once something is dead, I guess we have to throw it out.
Yep.
But you wouldn't keep it for a few months in that thing, right? Yeah. So I've been trying to like see how long a moss can regenerate after they're dead. Yeah,
did you learn this through trial and error?
Yeah.
Okay.
And also money. Lost money.
Okay.
Yeah. I try to document what I do to each moss to see. Let's say I bring in this shipment.
Yep.
And this is what I did, and they all died. Oh, so next time I can fix this. And then next time it also died. So I can. It's a constant process of trying to get the balance correct. Yeah.
But I would imagine it's quite difficult to get any sense, because all these things are living things, and as much as you can try to have the right parameters and the right frame and everything, they're ultimately still living, and there could always be that factor X that because of something that you can't see or you can't predict, it will die.
Yeah, it just sometimes you think it's doing very well, and then like somehow it just rots without your knowledge, and then you don't know what happens, which is very frustrating to do, especially if I'm like selling all these mosses, right?
Exactly.
And then,
can you imagine how much of a headache you must have?
The stocking is a nightmare. So I'll have I'll put this mosses up for sale today.
Yep.
And then you're doing well, a few orders, and then wait, this moss is not doing so well now. Like, even though I've had it for like a month or two and doing well, suddenly they're not doing well.
Yep.
So I can't sell them now. So I have to like cancel the order or something. Which sucks.
That sounds like a total like difficult. That sounds like such a difficult way to not only, I guess, spread the interest in moss, but even just to run a business.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you can't think of profits for this, because it's very much a passion thing.
Yep.
So if you like collecting mosses as a hobby, then I mean, this happens to like people who keep plants also. Like they just bring in a plant. Oh, I guess it died, and then I'll just try again. That's the cyclical like buy and try to keep it alive kind of thing. Yeah, but I try my best to tell people what I know about this moss so they can keep it alive. Yep. Because you'll never know what can kill it, even though it's been doing very well. Yep. Yeah, it happens. Like even if you go to Gardens by the Bay, you see the mosses there. It's like browning, even though it's the perfect conditions. So something's just happened.
But I guess there is no, as much as we want to do it, there is no way we can control it. Like, it just happens. Yeah. We just gotta accept it. Interesting. Is there any particular type of mosses that from customers and from sales that is quite popular?
They tend to like the ones that are green. It's either the ones that are green or the ones that are very unique. So there's two kinds of customers. Yep. The ones that like the classic moss look, they just want a moss terrarium, or ones that are hardcore collectors, which want the rarer types. So
how would you define a rarer type?
Mosses that you can't find here in Singapore.
Fair.
Or shops that don't sell it here. So I have to bring it from supplies overseas or through private collectors and I propagate myself. Yep. So yeah, those are like the two the subgroups within the customer base. Yeah. Okay. The kits do well too. Like
the kits.
Yeah, because on the website there's this, I sell kits or like starter kits.
Yep.
So this kind of, the system is in place. So when you buy it, whatever instructions I put on the site, they kind of just can follow it and they'll do well with most of the mosses. Yeah.
But let's. So the idea of a kit is interesting. Is it like you grow your own moss kit, or is it like you assemble the terrarium yourself?
Yeah, it's an assembly kind of deal.
Okay. Yeah. So the moss is already there, ready to be placed in.
Yep. Okay. So what a kit does is it cuts down on any research that you need to do because I've already done it and it kind of works for me.
Yep.
So it should be working for everyone too, right? And the kids, I think most of them buy them for as gifts. Yeah, like to give to family or friends.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is it possible instead of giving, let's say instead for the kid, instead of giving them like a finished moss for them to grow their own, is that a possibility?
Yeah, the kits come with actual live mosses, like as an add-on if you want. Yeah. So they can kind of assemble like this rocky hill or whatever, and then they just put the mosses on it. Yeah.
So it can't. So because the idea I had was I was imagining like you give them the decoration, the rock and whatever, and inside it, or you can sprinkle some seeds and it will grow. It doesn't work like that.
No. Okay. Because moss, they propagate by spores or cuttings.
Cuttings.
Yeah, you just cut the moss like in different bits. Just
but they're so tiny. No, so seriously, cutting.
Yeah, there's this way to propagate mosses which I can't get to work and people can't get to work too, but it's popularized in the US where they have some buttermilk and mosses and they just blend it in a blender.
Wait, buttermilk as in the pancake mix?
Yeah, that buttermilk.
And you put moss in there?
Yeah, so you blend it all together. So it's just mush of moss and buttermilk. And then you just paint it on walls.
It's like pancake mixer, basically.
Yeah, so it's a moss mix. Yeah.
And you've tried it?
It doesn't work here, I think.
Okay.
I don't know if it's a temperature or what.
Okay.
Or the moss they use.
Okay.
Yeah, but I've spoken to several people about this method, and no one has seems to get it working.
Have you tried other like cake mix or something?
Maybe it's the brand. Maybe it's the brand.
That sounds so. Okay, because I've seen, especially in recent years, people using I guess moss and specificity to do street art, to do art, and they paint a very specific like a stroke or like text, and it grows.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, that's a pancake mix.
Really? It's almost like someone's like fucking with you, man. I can't imagine the situation like at home. You break up the pancake mix and you put moss inside.
I kind of made it, right? So I bought a batter. I got a moss. I mixed it up in this blender. And I painted it over like this flower pot. Yep. And it's just full of mold the next day.
Oh, so moss is different from mold. Two different things.
Yeah, mold is under fungi. Yeah.
And
it's mushrooms, fungi, mycorrhizae. Yeah.
Okay. So I almost wanted to say that they look similar, but okay, fine. Okay, so there is a distinction between mold, fungi, moss, lichens, as you mentioned as well.
Yeah, and also there's algae. Yeah.
Oh, algae is in a separate class of
Yeah,
its own.
separate class too.
But it looks so
But
similar.
they look very similar.
They look so similar, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's all like it's all microscopic level.
Yep.
Yeah, but you can tell if it's an algae or a moss.
Yep.
Like up close.
Like, how up close?
Algae doesn't have leaves or fronds. It's just this thick mat of just green. There's no identifiable like structures.
When you say leaves, because when I think of leaf, it's like that petal thing coming up from like a long straight thing. So algae doesn't have that.
No, it's just cells.
So I guess it's by deduction then. If it doesn't have this, then if it doesn't, then maybe it's algae. If it has, then maybe it's one of the different categories. Interesting.
Yeah, but some algae do look like mosses and vice versa. Yeah, like at least to the naked eye or like at a glance, it's like, oh yeah, that's moss. And then when you look closer, it's like, oh, it's not.
Yep.
Yeah.
So going back to I guess selling mosses, are people buying mosses as an integral part or like as a quote unquote like a pet, like it's like as a central thing, or is it like part of something bigger? Like maybe like you say the terrarium, or they have like an aquarium they're just putting in. What is like the ratio? Because the idea of buying something, let's say like a plant and you grow, I think that's a lot more, I guess, accepted now. But I guess buying like moss and to keep it like a plant, but because it's so microscopic, there is the element of you have to get out like a macro lens, or you have to get out like something specialized to see it. I don't know if that's like more common. Yeah,
it's more, I think people buy it as a home decoration piece.
Okay.
Or like they have this, like, let's say a corner where they can, it's a small corner and they can't put a plant there because there's no light, or they have to buy a grow light if they want to put a plant. So a moss jar kind of makes sense.
A moss jar.
Yeah. So
it's like a jar of moss.
A jar of mosses.
Okay. I have to ask because all these terms, for the layman, it sounds like one thing, but I imagine in your world, it's a totally
something
different thing.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a moss mix is actually just buttermilk and moss.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah. So, and some people just buy, they are into aquariums, but they have this, let's say, you know how people have a lot of plants and then they have this one small space they just want to fill up. It's the same way with aquariums. They just want to fill up as many like spaces as possible with jars and glass stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, so I gotta say that most of the people, they either like terrariums, are familiar with it, or they just want a home decoration piece. Yeah.
So in following the train of thought, what do you personally look out for when, let's say, you're planning for a terrarium or like a vivarium? Because I've seen some of the pictures you have on your Instagram, which they look fantastical. So I'm just curious to know what goes into the thinking. Like, what are you thinking of, like, when you are planning to do up, let's say, a terrarium from scratch?
Okay.
Yeah. What goes into the thinking?
As much as possible, I try to recreate what I see like during treks, or like a concept in mind, like maybe a dead tree, or like a mountain landscape. I'll just have a rough concept, and then I'll see if it fits into how the moss grows or the plant grows, and I'll just try to like shape it from there. And I think it's also a way to experiment with different like styles or build styles, like how like maybe it's one like this new terrarium, I want to just use wood, or I want it more minimal, and it's also like kind of limited by the plants you use or like the moss you use. So maybe this moss it grows in a carpeting manner. So I can't really have wood because the wood will kind of block the light. So these things I will consider before building. But yeah, mostly I'll just see what I like in nature and I try to recreate it in this glass box. There's something about glass boxes which look quite cool.
What is a glass box?
Like a tank. Like anything in a glass box.
Also, it's literally a glass box.
Literal glass box.
It sounds so scientific. Okay. Like, you know, like for viewing or something. But okay, it's literally okay.
Yeah, I like glass boxes, I think.
Okay.
That's the whole, like, there's something about it. I don't know how to explain it, but anything in a glass box, let's say jewelry display case.
It ups the appeal.
It looks like it's something important inside.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
How much consideration has to be placed on the types of materials? Because if from my perspective, let's say if you put just wood inside, I guess, and let's say some of them has water inside, I would imagine the wood will rot.
Yeah.
And then it would bring in different kinds of elements, especially because initially you mentioned, like, let's say for a terrarium or anything of that sort, it's a very controlled environment.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't want external things, even microscopic, to grow, and it affects and it rots everything. So how much consideration is the material, like, for different things?
To be safe, right? Usually whatever works in an aquarium would work for a terrarium because it has been tested over years by different people.
Yep.
And it's usually the same kind of driftwood, which is the Malayan driftwood, which is like found in beaches. Like people just take it and break it apart.
Yep.
And like I think recently there's more and more kinds of wood, just like spider wood. Like these are all experimented on by aquarium people, the people who are aquascape.
Yep.
And I guess these are the safer, but the thing with wood is that it will rot, like you said.
Yep.
It will eventually rot. And if you start a terrarium, you'll see that there's fungus coming out for the first few weeks because there's still some form of like carbohydrates left, and the bacteria tries to digest it. But overall, it's more of a visual thing. It doesn't really affect the health of the ecosystem.
Okay.
So if you kind of like annoyed by it, you can just wipe it away.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But I guess at that point it really depends on the intention of buying some things, because for the most part, the looks and the appeal of it is how it looks visually.
Yep.
But I guess if after 2 or 3 weeks you have like fungus growing, then it kind of affects it. But I guess that is nature, isn't it? It grows.
Yeah. And if you give it enough time, it'll just go away on its own, like how it does in nature too.
Oh, interesting.
So it's kind of, if you would like a perfect piece of like a terrarium, like I don't think it exists because it will change over time.
I guess it exists in that specific point in time.
Like the beauty of it is how it changes over time. And I think it's what most people would like in a terrarium, to see it grow, like to see what factors they do can change the terrarium in a certain way. Yep. Yeah. So I guess that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, at
cool.
that specific point in time. Yeah. I'm curious to know if you do you just build terrariums and all these things for fun? What I mean by that is like, let's say on a weekend or let's say on a Friday you went out for a trek and something was particularly inspiring. So over the weekend you get your glass box and you build everything in and then you just tear it out. Is this something like a normal practice?
People usually keep it for longer than I do. But I enjoy the process of building something, and then once I'm finished with it, I'll just like to tear it down.
Okay.
Yeah, but most people just build it and then start putting fishes or like frogs into it. Yep. But I realized over the years that I'm kind of a lazy like plant owner in that sense. Yep. Where I like the process of building but not the maintaining aspect of it.
Yeah, because that's a different thing.
Like the creation is something that I enjoy a lot. So I try to create and this looks good. And then the next day I'm like tired of it.
So can I imagine, or is it safe to assume that in your space that you do all these things in, there are all these different mosses and different wood and different elements that, let's say you have your canvas, like the glass box. Yep. You just try to, or take 3 of this and 2 of that, and you put it together and you will see how it looks. Yeah. Does it work like
comping it together.
Oh, it's like a chef, like with any creative thing. I mean, in a sense.
It is. So it's just an outlet of like a creative expression. Yep. Like bringing nature into your room. Yep. Yeah. Like see if you can get it close to what nature does. Yeah. Kind of painting with materials, I guess, instead of paint.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting. This might be a little bit of a tangential question, but why does nature inspire you so much?
I don't know, man. It just does.
Okay.
Yeah. I've been fascinated by how, I guess it's growing up with National Geographic.
David Attenborough.
yeah. BBC and whatnot. Yeah. So I've always liked the whole, I don't know, man. It's just the aesthetic of it. Also like this overgrown forest, this lush greenery. It's something I always like to look at. Like even on Instagram, I'll just scroll. Like you're saying you were searching for swamp.
So it could be a typo.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I enjoy the visual aspect of it, and also like trekking, being out there, and kind of get lost in a non-urban environment.
But has there always been like a specific tie to something? What I mean by that is because I have had previous guests where they enjoy nature, they really like it, but they are wholly quote unquote dedicated or really, really interested in, let's say, reptiles or let's say beetles. So has there ever been something like this for you, or is it constantly like changing? So right now it's moss, maybe in the future it could be something else.
Yeah, it always changes. And I think a good analogy to use is nature is like music. So it's different genres of nature. So yes, you said reptiles, like amphibians, moss. So it will change over time, like how I started with frogs and now I'm with moss, like mosses. And I used to do aquariums and kind of got tired of it. Yeah.
So if nature was music, what genre of music is moss?
Irish folk, maybe.
So the one that so the one that nobody listens to, but if you do try to listen, maybe it's quite good.
Either like you're hardcore into it, or like what is this?
But I would imagine it is. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I would imagine it is quite important. In the ecology of things. Do you know what type of roles and functions it plays in nature?
I think overall moss is like it fills a niche where it takes in nutrients from the air and stuff, and it creates a shelter for microorganisms.
Okay.
Like, if it's just bare soil, so it serves as a network of. Because mosses, the way they grow is they grow on top of soil or other things, right? So they provide this sheltered layer where other things can thrive under it. Kind of how grass is, I think. Yeah.
But there is a difference between grass and moss.
And I have no idea what grass is.
Okay. But it's safe to assume it to take away that it serves a very important function because it is also home to other life.
Yep. It also kind of traps carbon. Yeah. So like how there's a peat box in where it has a lot of carbon collected in it. And I think it helps with global warming and stuff.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So, but now people are like uprooting trees and forests and this peat box and just releasing back these things into the atmosphere. So it serves as a carbon sink. Yeah.
Interesting.
That's for sphagnum mosses, but I'm not sure about other mosses. Maybe it could be just an evolutionary thing where like from mosses they became plants.
But I would imagine with nature and stuff, these mosses has been around for a very long time, especially in more of the denser jungles and untouched ones. They've been around for years and they'll probably exist longer than us. Interesting.
Yeah, they've been there from the start. Yeah. Like with algae and everything, they've been there for millions of years. And it's weird that they are only coming back in resurgence like in recent times. With like how the interest in plants are growing and the hobby of terrariums are growing. But I find it weird that there's a disconnect between the hobby of terrariums and also let's say you're interested in terrariums, you want to conserve nature, but it also uses energy, which is like electricity.
To maintain the terrarium. How so?
Because you have to use grow lights in most cases, or like the water you use. So it's kind of like a conflicting hobby. I think.
So but that's human nature lah. There are paradox.
Yeah. It's like, okay. Yeah, that's something I'm trying to reconcile, which is, I'm pushing this agenda of like love nature and everything. But then there's also, by the way, you need this light to
never
keep
knew
it alive.
That you needed grow light specifically to keep it alive, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is like how indoors the lights are not that strong. Like even like fluorescent light is not that strong. So you have to use like specialized bulbs or LEDs.
Would this apply to like mosses and plants in general as well?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, but it's just the weird like paradox, I guess.
Yeah, the nature of things.
Yeah.
Okay. And I guess and you mentioned, has there been a resurgence in interest with regards to mosses, or compared to, let's say, like more appealing things like what's the plant that people like, that monstera thing or whatever, all the plants, because right now there is a resurgence of, I think, planting and going this whole botanical route, and there are various outlets to cater it, but comparatively, plants look like a rock star where the moss is just sitting there doing nothing.
Yeah, it's always the one at the base of the pot, right? People don't even pay attention to it.
Yep.
And I think the reason why is it goes back to education. Like people don't know what this is, that even different species exist, and it can be quite appealing. And this also ties into how big the market can be, because I mean, plants are popular because of the
look.
It looks nice and you can resell it.
Yep.
Yeah, but I think mosses are not that way. So once you buy it, you keep it. To propagate it takes damn long. So the market of buying selling is like not there. It's only from supplier to shop to the buyer, but it's not like a shared thing. Where plants, if you buy plants, you can propagate it.
You can
pass
cut
it
the
around.
leaf,
Yeah,
right?
trade with people.
I have a friend who told me that I think he has this very nice white spotted whatever leaf thing, and because it bloomed and it grows very nice, he can just cut one of the leaf, put it on Carousel and whatever the shit and make a good amount of money with it. It's like, what the fuck? It's actual money plant.
Yeah, it is. And it grows faster, so you can keep like reaping your rewards.
And comparatively, if you were to buy a plant and I buy a moss, I think 3 months later, I would still be looking at the moss, but you would have cutted different things and spread it around.
Yeah, so I think that's the thing that limits mosses also. Like, because in the aquarium industry, mosses are quite a popular thing because they grow very fast. Aquatic mosses grow very fast.
How fast are we looking at?
So you can get, if it's established, right, you can get a full tank of mosses within 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So you can keep harvesting these mosses and selling it to people.
What do you mean a full tank? Like,
so let's say a tank, you start with usually they sell it in this tissue culture, like cups.
Because they look very patchy, right? Okay.
So you have this cup, then you put it on wood or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they start growing well. And then once they're established, they can grow very fast.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, so you can just keep selling to people. So that's also another part of the hobby, I guess.
It's like real life Stardew Valley. Interesting. And is that something people do?
Yeah, if we go on Carousel, you see.
When you say harvesting, which means that it has grown to a point where it's so much, and you can, I don't know, scoop out like a patch of it.
And it will have that same patch or more the next time you harvest it again. So I think it's a very crucial factor in a hobby, I guess.
Yep.
Like you need to have that whole interaction of like, is this gonna be worth my time to keep, or is it just a collector's item? Yeah.
Because if it is just you buy and you look at it and you maintain it, the addressable market for that is admittedly quite tiny.
Yeah, and it's only for you. Or like when you buy it, it's like, I guess this is...
You just own it.
I guess I own this. Yeah. I can't
you post a picture about it on Instagram and it's like, oh, it's just there.
Yeah, it's just there. Can't really propagate, can't really sell. I guess you can trade it, but who would want to trade a moss for a nice monstera?
It's no different than a pet rock. Okay.
Yeah.
Are there different colors, or are there like special colors with regards to the mosses, or do they only occupy a certain color range?
There's the most common is green, and then the spectrum goes like green to red. So anything
red?
Green, just red mosses, and so
shit.
It's very red. So, but these mosses usually live in like the colder temperatures.
Okay.
So there's the red sphagnum mosses. The one that I saw recently is red also, like the alpine moss, like which they grow in mountains. So they are very like it's probably like a Pokeball red.
Wow.
It can be that red or. Like, so the spectrum is like green to red, right? So yellow, orange, like greenish yellow, yeah.
Yep.
But the yellow ones don't do too well because it looks like they're dead.
And people unknowingly thinking they're dead, they will throw it out. Oh, interesting. Yeah. But is there any like special characteristics to the color, or is it just because of the climate?
I'm not sure about the whole scientific thing behind it, but I feel like it's an adaptation of where they are. So maybe if it's in the mountains, I have no idea. I'm just like
chlorophyll.
Yeah, something to do with chlorophyll.
Things.
Yeah,
okay.
sciencey things. So maybe red like blocks out whatever spectrum that they need.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the red sounds fucking cool.
Yeah, the red mosses are really nice.
And are they rare?
I guess rare in a way, in a form where there's no red mosses in Singapore or like in Asia. So you gotta bring it in. Yeah.
But I guess going back to the answer of, let's say, I don't know, if someone were to commission you to do a terrarium, and I don't know, at the back of your head, this since you have done it with red moss before, and you really, really need it, you have to order it from somewhere, and you have to see whether it will play well with the different types of mosses you're planning to put in as well?
Yeah, because it's a very seasonal thing. Let's say someone requests for, I want that red moss.
Yeah.
And it's not available, and now you can't do anything about it because you can't find it anywhere else.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very much like whatever's available, you gotta make do with it.
Yep. That sounds fucking cool.
Wait, have you kept mosses? Or like terrariums in general? Or aquariums?
I would classify myself as a plant killer. Unfortunately, any plant that goes through my hands, no matter how hard I try, will die. Yeah. But I can understand the fascination. I can understand the appeal because I've seen, I mean, with the internet, you are able to get, I guess, a sense of how grand some of these forests are. And not just the forest, but the undergrowth. And you can see all these pictures. And I guess it is quite unimaginable when you think about, this is what we see. But we are limited to the amount of senses that we have. And if you look at it through maybe at night, you look at it through like at night with lights, you look at it with the macro lens, you get to see literally a different world. And I think that is quite appealing. Yeah, I wouldn't want you to have to go through the trauma of like buying something and then within 2 weeks again it dies.
Yeah, but mosses are good like fodder for macro photography.
Mosses are good. What does that mean?
Like it's a good thing to shoot for macro photography, like to dial in your lights and before you go out into the field. Yep. Yeah. It's a good visual thing to have.
Admittedly, the pattern and the texture of it, if it's quite how would I put it? It's definitely not man-made. It doesn't look very man-made at all. I think if you were to look at it with fresh eyes and perspective, and I can imagine a scenario where someone would take all these macro photography and dress it up in like an art exhibit. I think it doesn't look very man-made because when we try to create something, we try to make it very functional, very angular and stuff like that. But I think when you look at macro photography, all these mosses, they look alien almost.
Yeah, it's very alien-like.
Yeah, without the context of someone telling, this is from this patch of moss. And then you look at the moss from your eyes, it's like, it's just a patch.
Yeah, it looks very different.
It looks so different. It looks very alien. I think, the appeal of that is stunning.
Yeah. And also how some mosses can look very different depending on their life cycle or different parts of their life stage. So you have the moss, right? And once they want to reproduce, they have the spores. And this sporophytes, which is what they're called, are just capsules of what the spores are contained in. So it grows up vertical, and then it's this like bulb. And these bulbs are very like interesting to look at under a macrophotography lens. But
without the lens, you don't see it.
You see it, but it looks like a toothpick with something on the end. So it's not that interesting if you look at it.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Okay. They come in very bright colors, so like neon green, like it can be red also.
Yep.
So I guess these are the flowers of the mosses in a way where, flowers serve to like further the lineage of the flowers, right?
Yep.
Like the plant.
Yep.
So the sporophytes are that way too. Yep. They contain the spores.
Yep. In the interest of making me not sound like a terrible human, I am actively trying to keep a crab alive now, like a really tiny one.
Is it a vampire crab?
I had those before, but unfortunately they're all in the afterlife. Okay. So I think the one I have now is, I think a little bit bigger. I don't know if it falls under the classification of a vampire crab, but I think I got it at the aquarium in Clementi, so it's one of the bigger ones.
Oh yeah, I like that place.
It's so cute. Yeah, and then recently I found out that you can buy frogs. Yeah, as you said, and a friend said you can buy like isopods as well.
Yeah, isopods is a thing I'm into now too.
Oh, you're into it as well?
Yeah. It's so fun. So fun to have.
Do they go together with mosses, or are they totally separate environments?
Most of them will eat the mosses. So if a moss is not doing too well, I'll just off with it. I'll just end it in the isopod chamber. Okay. Yeah. So I mean in the wild that's what isopods eat too. Like they share the same space. They are at the roots of the base of trees, and they kind of, I guess they like the taste of moss.
So what other adjacent things are you interested in now?
I guess isopods, right? And then I was into aquariums. Now it's more terrariums. But I think I'm more of a collector of things. I like collecting things. So mosses is just one of my collections. I have unrelated, but I collect vintage cameras.
Oh, tight.
And I guess like the knives for bushcrafting.
For what?
Bushcrafting, like
What's that?
It's camping knives basically.
Okay.
Because the aesthetics are very cool.
Yep.
Yeah. And I used to collect car magazines when I was a kid.
Very different.
Yeah, very different. Just weird.
Going back to the isopods. What do they do?
I think the appeal of isopods, right?
Yeah.
It's the whole marketability because
Are they very marketable?
they're very expensive, and
Okay.
and it goes back to the whole like you gotta resell. Like a hobby has to have a scene of buy and sell to make it thrive.
Yeah.
And it visually looks cool.
I guess.
Like, have you seen the rubber ducky ones?
Well, show me later.
Okay,
But
yeah.
could you give just a non-visual verbal description of it?
It looks like a shrimp with rubber ducky snout, with a snout of a rubber ducky.
But wouldn't you have to look it through like a microscope or like
it's quite big, so you can see it visibly if you're naked.
Oh, wait, that sounds terrifying. Big enough that you can see like this.
Yeah, it's like this. Probably a 20-cent coin. 20-cent coin in size, which is quite big.
I think one of it is fine, but if it's like 100, that is terrifying. That's a horror movie.
That's what most people aim to get though.
100.
Yeah, because you can then sell it. Because okay, let's say a rubber ducky is of what they sell for anywhere between $18 to $30 per isopod. So a colony will cost you anywhere between a few hundreds.
And now they call it a colony.
Yep, it's a colony of isopods.
So a little bit of a tangent, but let's say if I'm interested in getting, let's say, a family, some isopods.
yeah, some isopods.
Do I just go to the store and just buy like one?
They sell it in tens, 8s or 10s, yeah.
Eights
like
or
a group,
tens.
yeah.
Okay. And they get along just fine. Because for like the crab thing, they started attacking one another. So that is pretty traumatizing.
I think it's a territory thing, right?
Yeah, I don't know what is this.
Okay.
They both of them just ganged up on one. So
Now you're left with one.
The previous tree that went into the afterlife, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Survival.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and these two hobbies don't really mix isopod and moss because the isopods eat the moss. So it has to be separate, which is a bit sad. It would be nice if I can keep the isopods with the moss.
Yep.
Yeah.
But they don't grow into something else, right? Isopods?
No. They're just isopods.
And what is the general life cycle? Like, do they live for very long?
I think it's a few months.
Oh, that's so sad.
That's why you need the colony to keep going.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
they have this like pouches under their bellies with all the little babies.
The idea of them just like okay, let's say you go by 10, right? And let's say like 2 weeks later, it becomes like 50. That's quite horrifying.
I mean, if you think about it in a monetary sense, it's fine. Because
but you can't see them as dollar signs like scurrying about. It doesn't make sense.
It looks like a xenomorph.
I know. Yeah. It's quite cute. Like, it's like a pill bug and whatever. But I don't know, if you never kept properly, then everything climb out, then that's quite horrifying.
Yeah. You'll see some like crawling around your floor.
Has that happened to you before?
Yeah, a lot of times.
Oh god.
No matter how much you try to like isopod proof it, they'll somehow get out. Like let's say you open the lid and someone's like, at the corner.
But they seem like another very niche scene in terms of, let's say, like pet keeping or like or alternative pets.
Alternative pets, yeah.
Alternative pets.
Yeah. They used to be illegal. But only recently. Like I don't think it's illegal in the sense where it's illegal, but it's illegal because no one bothered to like see if it's even a pet.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just like on the periphery of like pets, right?
Yeah.
So it's never even reviewed.
I mean, in terms of looks, it looks pretty ugly. Like, come on. But I definitely want to see the rubber ducky. It sounds pretty cute.
It's very cute. Yeah.
Okay, so going back to the topic about mosses, since we like to meddle with things, are there man-made mosses?
The closest one would be a crochet.
What's that?
Like someone's crocheting moss. There's no You mean biologically? Like creating mosses out of?
Yeah, so like man-made mosses.
I don't think they are. But you can tissue culture mosses, which you just take cells from a moss and put it in a sterile lab condition, and you can grow a lot of it. But it will take very long.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how they do it for plants now too. So let's say there's a rare plant, they just take a tissue sample of it, put it in a lab, like the gel, and it kind of grows a new plant out of that small bit. Yeah, but I don't think it's even practical for mosses because they already grow, are so small and they grow the same rate as you would do in a tissue culture.
Yep.
So yeah, I guess it's the closest to man-made as you can get with mosses.
Then you mentioned like the crochet thing, like that is.
There's an artist that does it. I forgot her name, but she crochets mosses or like undergrowth, type kind of like mushrooms or fungi. It looks quite realistic.
You have to show me.
I'll show you.
Yeah,
later.
that sounds pretty intense. Yeah. I think lastly, how do you imagine the ecology of Singapore to be like? I mean, we are a very urbanized area, but we try as much as possible to have some green, including some areas to trek. And I'm sure if you have visited those areas actively, what do you think of it? Because I think it's always like an ongoing conversation, like, we want to try to preserve as much green as possible, a certain percentile, especially in different areas, like, but the rate of urbanization is also another thing to balance, because I think recently there was the whole debacle about trying to preserve a plot of land or like a plot of trees or jungle, but they demolished it to build something. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, they have the green plan or something, right? Like trying to be biophilic, but then it's immediately countered by the next development. Yep. So I feel like it's a one step back and then one step forward kind of thing. So it's like
no progress.
Yeah, there's no progress. In the long run, it's gonna be a lot of buildings with plants, I guess, right? So I think it's just a matter of what they wanna prioritize. So gardens, by the way, works because it earns you money, and the natural forests are free. Yep. So they gotta.
There's no commercial value to them. Yeah.
Unless they start ticketing the nature reserves. Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit sad because Singapore's ecology is so diverse.
I've heard that there are some species of, maybe not say plants, but I don't know, like squirrel or crabs, or you can only find in Singapore. Yeah,
and even the fishes in the streams, like Ofnisun, they are very commercially available in the trade now, but it's native here in Singapore, and it's a bit sad to have to lose all these things. Like some things we don't even know if they. You see, like they recently rediscovered a species of frog or something that hasn't been seen in Asia or Singapore for a while. They thought it was extinct, but it was rediscovered here.
They thought it was extinct.
Yeah, so you never know what you're gonna lose when it might be just a plot of land, but that plot of land could be like the final like habitat of this species of like moths or frogs, or insects. So it's always not a good thing when it's made like. It's making way for more people. I mean, there's a lot more people here already.
Yeah. What about the different trekking spots we have in Singapore? Does that fulfill your itch to go out and look? Because I would imagine they are not very expansive or not very vast. And maybe like once or twice or even like 5 times you kind of get a lay of the land. Yeah. And what are your thoughts on those?
I'm quite okay with the fact that there's only these few spots, because the times I've always seen different things.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it depends on the time of the day you go also, and it's always if you are there for the views, you'll get sick of it.
Sure.
Yeah, but I'm there to look for like insects or like, oh, this is new, a snake, and this
you
keeps
say it
me
so casually. Oh, snake. Okay.
Snake, yeah. So if you have that kind of perspective, I guess it doesn't get boring because you always see something new every time.
So let's say it's Saturday morning and you go in, you're prepared to like forage a bit, uncover. Are there like certain rules to it?
I don't even forage. I don't think it's allowed in Singapore. Okay. Yeah, so I'll just like look or take photos of it. So the photos are my collection. Okay. Yeah, not the physical collection. Okay. And I'll just take photos of it, see what's new, and see if there's an abundance of a certain insect at certain seasons. So that's always a thing I find interesting. Like that every time you go, it's always something new. If you observe little things.
Yep.
Yeah. Because the place itself won't change. And I mean, it will change eventually when people, they bring it down. But
That's so sad. So much for conservation.
yeah, it's like, they'll just call it conservation and they'll build a building on it. And I actually haven't been to much forested areas overseas.
Is it something that you would want to travel to?
Yeah, I would like to go, like maybe the Amazon. This
Yeah.
is what everyone wants to go.
Yep.
But then when I've been watching YouTube videos of people in the Amazon, and it's like there's a casual cobra sitting by the cabin. And it's like, do I want to deal with this?
You just said snake so casually, so I
Snakes is
imagine it's the
fine.
same thing.
But a cobra or like when you're sleeping, like a giant spider comes up. It's like, because you're not used to it here.
Yeah.
Like you don't know if it's even like venomous or anything.
Yeah.
But I would like to experience that.
Have you traveled anywhere, any particular forest in mind that you kind of remember or having fond memories of?
The one in Sarawak is fun. The Buckle Park in Sarawak. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a cluster of islands. And the thing that's they are famous for is the proboscis monkey, the one with the long nose.
I might have seen pictures of that on Pinterest. Okay.
Yeah. So went there to look at those monkeys. But there were also other cool insects over there. Which, okay, it's cool.
But is it something that you have to go off the beaten path for and to go?
It's a guided, like, it's not really guided. You can have a guided tour, but it's also like accessible to public. You can just walk. Yeah. I feel like, I mean, you have macro photographers on before, right? And they usually do in groups or something.
Yeah, so the one I had previously, I think he mentioned something about being very open to have people on to just even people who has never touched a photography or just curious about the subject to go and into, let's say, like certain parts of Singapore and to just look. But I think he shares the same idea you have, which is you kind of respect the forest. Like you don't maybe like meddle with it just because you want to take a photo. You don't like uncover things. You definitely don't bring things out. Yeah. I think you just leave it and you treat it with like a reverence, like you're a visitor. You just go in, you take your photos, and you leave. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't try to like mess around with it. Because I think if everyone does that, then it will like disrupt so many ecosystems.
Yep.
Yeah. To bring home things and to like even like that's why I think they have trails. Like and you can't get off the beaten path. Yep. Because you'll just step on random things you don't know
Definitely.
about. Yeah.
I think even going to these areas at night, I think you need a specialized thing because I think different things come out at night. Especially let's say you go to it at night, you step on a snake bites you and things will happen.
What do you think is the best trail in Singapore? Or do you even do you go to treks here?
The only trail that comes to mind is the East Coast Park, the one that goes to it goes to Upper Changi to for food. I am not a big proponent of going out in general. So going out to trek, I think my quota is like maybe once every 2 years. I think the last time I went was probably McRitchie. Yeah, but I think same things I mentioned to you because we are so ingrained with the senses and whatever you can see or hear that, like, let's say you go in a trek, you don't listen to music and you just listen to the sounds and everything, but then the insects and anything, let's say even on the floor, you'll tend to miss. Yeah, unless you go in with the frame of mind that I'm only gonna look at things on the ground. At this particular area. Along this particular track, then maybe you can see something. I think I'm not a very big tracker. Yeah, but although the idea of like tracking in like perhaps like a colder environment, that sounds pretty appealing. Yeah. It's like, mostly the humidity.
It's the heat and humidity that's killing you.
Unfortunately,
the mosquitoes too.
Oh yeah, definitely. Interesting. I'm curious to know: are you big on growing your own food and produce?
Yeah, sure.
Are you?
Yeah.
You are?
So I'm gonna get my house in maybe next year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we kind of catered an area to like grow our own food. So I think it's a very interesting thing to do.
Is it something that you have been toying with, or?
Yeah, because it started with my interest in plants.
Yep.
And like growing plants, and thinking about how I'm using all this like grow lights, but it's not making anything out of it. So maybe like having edible plants would kind of fix that. Like actually have something to like eat, or like a feasible, like a tangible thing to have. And it's always nice to learn about like growing your own food. Yeah, you get to know more of the like the supply chain and how different things work and how hard is it to grow food. Because I think that's something a lot of people miss. Like the difficulty in a farmer getting that crop to your table.
Oh, it's so fucking difficult.
Yeah, the logistics of it is insane.
I think not even just the logistics of it. I think that's a definite part, but even the act of growing it, act of, I guess, quote unquote caring for it and just looking at it. I think it's just time we don't see.
Yeah.
And going back to the whole, I guess the original idea is like whatever we don't see, we just tend to overlook.
Yeah. I don't know how farmers do it though. It's like constantly in the back of your head, like, is the crop gonna be okay? Like once you step away from the farm, right? Anything can happen. Like there's a hole in the fence.
Yep.
Or like, I guess it's the whole big thing about what's it? Indoor farming. Vertical farming.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite interesting.
So that is something that interests you as well.
The whole system of growing food or even anything. I like to toy with the idea of like creating an ecosystem. So this thing is kind of in the wheelhouse of growing things. Like I already have the moss and the lights. So what's another plan?
Yep.
Yeah.
I guess as we wind down the conversation, I think when I was doing my research for this particular episode, it is apparently it's not uncommon to find, I think, different types of insects in different types of mosses. I think there was this one particular one called the springtail.
Oh yeah, springtails.
Is that something that I don't know when let's say you're selling particular mosses, is that something like you make sure that it's not inside, or wait, it's inside you just leave it in? I don't know how it works.
People would want a springtail inside because the thing that endangers the lives of mosses in an enclosed environment is fungus because of the lack of airflow. Because mosses usually live, like you see, they're not on like in a bottle in real life, right? Yeah, on the forest floor, a lot of ventilation of airflow. So this by keeping them in a bottle, they tend to develop mold or fungus, and the springtails eat the fungus. So it kind of keeps your ecosystem clean and thriving.
They look very cute. They actually look very cute.
Yeah. The ones that people don't like are mites.
Oh, they're different.
Yeah, the mites are the one that look like spiders, but it also looks a bit more disgusting.
Okay.
And I don't know, it's their whole structure, and they are considered like a pest in the plant world, to like spider mites. So I think it carries over to mosses though, like having mites in the soil. But even though some of them are harmless, but visually having mites, I don't know why.
Same like plants are. I mean, I think I believe someone has mentioned to me before, like you can have a plant growing well. I think after a while, if it's not particularly taken care of, I think you can have like insects eating or whatever. Yeah, whatever the plant.
Plants are, because you know, like how everyone gets plants during COVID.
I guess that's something people do.
Yeah, and I've also been buying plants, and like you see it doing well for 2-3 months. It's like, okay, I guess I'm a good grower. Like it's doing well. So you get complacent, right? You don't treat the leaves and everything. And the next thing is, you know, it's infested with
it's so fickle.
Yeah. So it's that constantly having to monitor it.
What's the plant count now?
It's not as much as other people, but I think I have 30.
30 is not a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's on the wall. I would like to have more, but I've been offloading plants to make more space for mosses.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. In closing, I'm just curious to know, what are some of the lessons you've learned? I think with regards to cultivating, working with mosses in general. What are some of the lessons you've learned?
I think it's to have patience. It's patience and waiting, because now we are all very impatient. We just want instant gratification. And I think having mosses is a way to like take a step back and trust that whatever you're doing will be fine in the end. Because having a jar of moss is doing well, or like you start a terrarium and that's not the end product. The end product is the journey, like the the time it takes to grow.
Oh.
So there's never a final time. It's just every day you see this moss, oh, it's growing well, or like plants, it's growing well. I think patience and time is something that we all need to have more of. And I think it definitely made me more patient working with mosses, because I'll have a plant, or I have a moss that's not doing well, and then, oh shit, like what did I do wrong? But then I'll just leave it alone a few weeks, few months, and then it suddenly thrives because it's just acclimating.
That's crazy though, a few months.
Yeah. I have a one in my tank which has been there for 6 months, but it wasn't doing well for the first 3 months.
Okay.
Yeah, upon getting it, I think I put it in a light that's too bright, so it just burned out. And then I'll just leave it there to like fill up, like pad the space in between.
But it looks dead lah.
Yeah, it's just like fully brown. But recently it's been sprouting new like shoots.
Did it puzzle you?
Yeah, but so that's something I learned. Is like I can just, if it's not working out, I'll just leave it alone. Let nature take its course. Yeah. So I think that's something we can all do. Like not even for mosses, it's even real. In life, you can't be too impatient with things.
It's like the lessons you learn from this particular thing, and it kind of
applies to life. Yeah.
It's holistic. Okay.
Yeah.
In closing, is there anything else you would like to talk about?
Not really.
Okay. Yeah. Where can people find you? Where can people find your products? Yeah.
You can find us or me at Swamp, the swamp.sg.
The swamp.sg.
The swamp.sg. We are on Instagram. We have a website which we sell stuff out of too.
Yeah. Is it the same name? Like
the swamp.sg.com. Yeah, I'm not actually sure.
Okay. So whichever the case is, the swamp.sg on Instagram, and the links will be there. Yes, and
I've been toying with the idea of making a TikTok for swamp, but I'm not sure what. I think it would be
pretty appealing.
There's a subculture there of like plants and living things, but I don't know. I feel like I'm stretching myself too thin with TikTok.
I think it's a different game.
Yeah, it's a game I'm not gonna be able to play well. Yeah.
Okay. We'll wait to see if that happens.
Sure.
Thank you, Ami. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed the episode and feel inspired. If you enjoyed what you heard thus far, do give us a follow on Instagram. And don't forget to share and subscribe. Stay tuned for the next episode.